When waitress Harper Wilson agrees to a marriage of convenience with millionaire farmer Owen Blackwell to save her family's farm, she never expects to fall for the man behind the deal. But as secrets unravel and danger looms, will their arrangement turn into something real? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. Harper Wilson wiped the sweat from her brow as she rushed between tables at Maggie's diner. The lunch crowd was especially busy today, and her feet ached in her worn-out sneakers, but she couldn't afford new ones, not with the stack of bills waiting for her at home. "Order up," Maggie called from the kitchen. Harper grabbed the plates and delivered them to table 7 with a smile that hid her exhaustion. "Here you go, folks. Can I get you anything else?" As she turned around, she nearly bumped into a tall, broad-shouldered man who seemed out of place in the small-town diner. His expensive clothes and stern expression made him stand out among the regulars. "Excuse me," she said, stepping aside. The man barely nodded before taking a seat at a corner booth. Harper grabbed a menu and approached him. "Welcome to Maggie's. Can I start you off with some coffee?" He looked up and Harper was struck by his intense blue eyes. "Just water." "Sure thing," she said, trying to maintain her cheerful demeanor despite his coldness. As Harper walked away, Maggie leaned over the counter. "Do you know who that is?" she whispered. Harper shook her head. "That's Owen Blackwell. Owns half the farmland in the county. They say he's worth millions." Harper glanced back at the man who was now staring out the window. "Well, his money didn't buy him any manners," Maggie laughed. "His grandfather, old Thomas Blackwell, passed away last month. Been quite the talk around town." Harper served other customers before returning to Owen's table. "Have you decided what you'd like?" "Just the special," he said, without looking at the menu. "Coming right up." When Harper returned with his meal, she noticed Owen studying her name tag. "Harper," he said, as if testing the name. "You're Ellie Wilson's daughter, aren't you?" Harper stiffened. "Yes." "How is your mother's farm doing these days?" The question felt like a punch to the stomach. "We're managing," she lied. Owen nodded but said nothing more. Harper walked away, wondering why he would ask about their farm. Later that evening, Harper drove her old pickup truck down the familiar dirt road to her family's farm. The Wilson family farm sign hung crooked on the gate, needing repair like everything else on the property. Inside the farmhouse, Harper found her mother at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers. "How was work?" Ellie asked, quickly gathering. "The papers into a pile. Same as always," Harper replied, setting her purse down. "How's your back today?" "Oh, don't worry about me," Ellie said with a dismissive wave. "I'm fine." Harper knew better. Her mother's accident last year had left her with chronic pain that made running the farm nearly impossible. That's why Harper had taken the waitressing job, to help keep things afloat. "The bank called again," Ellie said quietly. Harper's heart sank. "What did they say?" "Just a reminder that we have 60 days to make the payment, or they'll foreclose." Harper sat down heavily. "That's not enough time. Even with my tips, we're nowhere near having enough." "We'll figure something out," Ellie said, reaching for her daughter's hand. "We always do." Harper tried to smile, but the weight of their situation felt crushing. The Wilson farm had been in their family for 3 generations. After her father's death 5 years ago, they'd struggled to keep it going. The drought last summer had nearly finished them off. "I met Owen Blackwell today," Harper said, changing the subject. "He came into the diner." Ellie looked up sharply. "Owen Blackwell? What did he want?" "Just lunch, I think, but he asked about our farm." Ellie's expression darkened, probably looking to add more land to his collection. "Is he really as rich as people say? The Blackwells have owned the biggest farm in the county for decades, and Owen's turned it into some kind of agricultural empire. But money isn't everything, Harper. Remember that." Harper nodded, but as she looked around their worn kitchen with its leaking faucet and peeling wallpaper, she couldn't help thinking that a little money would solve a lot of their problems right now. The next day, Harper was surprised to see Owen Blackwell at the diner again. This time, he sat at the counter. "Back so soon?" she asked, pouring coffee. Without being asked. "I wanted to talk to you," he said, his voice low. Harper raised an eyebrow. "About what?" Not here. Owen glanced around the diner. When do you get off work? Why would I tell you that? Harper crossed her arms defensively. I have a business proposition that might interest you. It concerns your farm. Harper's defenses rose immediately. Our farm isn't for sale, if that's what you're after. That's not it at all, Owen replied. Please, just hear me out. Something in his voice made Harper pause. I finish at 4. I'll wait. True to his word, Owen's black truck was parked outside when Harper's shift ended. She approached cautiously, unsure what to expect. Get in, he said through the open window. I want to show you something. Against her better judgment, Harper climbed into the passenger seat. They drove in silence until Owen turned onto a road Harper knew led to his family's property. Where are we going? She asked. My farm. You'll understand once we get there. The Blackwell estate was everything the Wilson farm was not. Pristine fields stretched as far as the eye could see. Modern equipment sat in perfect rows, and the main house looked like something from a magazine. Owen parked in front of the house and led Harper to a large office. He gestured for her to sit while he settled behind an imposing desk. I know about your situation, he said bluntly. The bank called me. Harper felt her cheeks flush with anger and embarrassment. That's none of your business. Actually, it is. The bank knows I've been looking to expand. They thought I might be interested in buying your land when it goes into foreclosure. So you are trying to take our farm. Harper stood up, ready to leave. Sit down, Owen said firmly. That's not what I'm proposing. Reluctantly, Harper sat back down. I need a wife, Owen stated matter-of-factly. Harper blinked in confusion. Excuse me? My grandfather's will had an unexpected condition. If I want to keep control of the family land, I need to be married by the 1-year anniversary of his death. What does that have to do with me? Owen leaned forward. I'm offering you a deal, Harper. Marry me, stay married for 1 year, and I'll pay off all your debts. Your farm will be safe. Harper stared at him in disbelief. You can't be serious. Completely serious. This would be a business arrangement, nothing more. After a year, we divorce quietly, and you go back to your life with your farm secure. Why me? You could have any woman you want. Owen's expression remained unreadable. I need someone who understands farm life and who has something to gain from this arrangement. You're perfect. Harper stood and paced the room, her mind racing. This is crazy. I don't even know you. You don't need to know me. We'll live separately. I'll give you a monthly allowance, and when the year is up, you'll have a generous settlement. And what would I have to do? As your wife, Harper asked. Hesitantly. Attend a few social functions, make it look convincing. That's all. That's all, Harper repeated skeptically. I'm not looking for love, Harper. I'm looking for a business partner who can help me fulfill my grandfather's ridiculous condition. Harper thought of her mother, of the farm they were about to lose, of all the years of family history that would be erased if they had to sell. I need time to think about it, she said. Owen nodded. You have until tomorrow. The offer won't be open long. Thanks to that night, Harper sat with her mother at their kitchen table, the weight of Owen's proposal hanging over her. He wants to marry you, Ellie repeated, shocked. Why? Harper explained the condition in Thomas Blackwell's will. He says after a year we'd divorce and the farm would be secure. This is insane, Harper. You can't marry a man you don't love just to save the farm. Can't I? Harper's voice cracked. What choice do we have, Mom? The bank is going to take everything in 2 months. Ellie reached for her daughter's hand. There has to be another way. We've tried everything else. The loan extensions, selling equipment, my extra shifts. None of it is enough. But marriage? That's sacred, Harper. It would just be on paper, Harper insisted. A business deal. Ellie shook her head sadly. These things have a way of getting complicated. More complicated than losing our home. The home where Dad taught me to ride a bike, where Grandpa planted that apple tree, where you and Dad got married. Tears filled Ellie's eyes. I can't ask you to sacrifice yourself like this. You're not asking, I'm offering. Harper squeezed her mother's hand. It's just 1 year of my life to save our family's legacy. Later that night, Harper couldn't sleep. She wandered outside to the old swing her father had hung from the oak tree years ago. The moon cast long shadows across the fields, fields that might not be theirs much longer. She thought about Owen Blackwell with his cold eyes and businesslike proposal. There was something about him that intrigued her, despite his arrogance. He seemed so alone in that big, perfect house. By morning, Harper had made her decision. Owen was waiting at the diner when Harper arrived for her shift. She approached his table, coffee pot in hand. "I've thought about your offer," she said quietly. Owen looked up expectantly. "I'll do it," Harper continued. "I'll marry you, but I have conditions of my own." A hint of surprise crossed Owen's face, such as, "I want everything in writing, the payment of our debts, the duration, the divorce terms." Owen nodded. "Of course. And I want my mother taken care of. Medical insurance, home repairs, everything. Consider it done." Harper took a deep breath. "And one more thing. I need to know why your grandfather had such an unusual condition in his will." For the first time, Owen looked uncomfortable. "That's personal. If I'm going to be your wife, even temporarily, I think I deserve to know." Owen was silent for a long moment. "My grandfather believed I worked too much. He thought I needed balance in my life. So this is his way of forcing you to find love?" "This has nothing to do with love," Owen said firmly. "It's about fulfilling a legal obligation." Harper nodded, trying to ignore the flutter of disappointment. "When would we get married?" "As soon as possible. I've already contacted a lawyer to draw up the agreement. We can meet tomorrow to review the terms." Harper felt a wave of unreality wash over her. Was she really going to do this? Marry a stranger to save her family's farm? "I need to give Maggie my notice," she said, more to herself than to Owen. "You won't need to work here anymore," Owen replied. "As my wife, appearances matter." Harper hadn't considered that. No more. Waitressing meant more time to help her mother with the farm, but it also meant she would be more dependent on Owen. "I'll see you tomorrow then," she said, already wondering if she was making a terrible mistake. Owen stood to leave, towering over her. For a brief moment their eyes locked, and Harper felt something stir inside her. Curiosity, perhaps, about the man she was agreeing to marry. "Tomorrow," Owen confirmed, then turned and walked out of the diner. Harper watched him go, her heart racing. In just a few days, her life had completely changed course. She was about to become Mrs. Owen Blackwell, wife to a millionaire, savior of her family's farm, and part of a marriage that existed only on paper. What had she gotten herself into? The next day, Harper drove to Owen's farm with a knot in her stomach. His lawyer, a stern woman named Patricia, was waiting with a thick contract. "This outlines all the terms Mr. Blackwell has agreed to," Patricia explained, sliding the document across the table. Harper read carefully. The contract stipulated that Owen would pay off all the Wilson farm debts immediately upon marriage. Harper would receive a monthly allowance and a substantial settlement after the divorce. In return, she would live at the Blackwell estate, attend social functions as Owen's wife, and maintain the appearance of a genuine marriage for exactly 1 year. "What about—" Harper hesitated. "Physical aspects of marriage?" Patricia raised an eyebrow. "The contract specifies a marriage in name only. There are no expectations of intimacy." Harper felt her cheeks flush as she signed the last page. "Congratulations," Patricia said without warmth. "The wedding is scheduled for Saturday." "This Saturday?" Harper gasped. "That's only 3 days away." "Mr. Blackwell sees no reason to delay," Patricia replied. "It will be a small civil ceremony. A car will pick you up at 9. After Patricia left, Owen entered the room. "Is everything satisfactory?" Harper nodded, still processing the reality of her situation. "It's all happening so fast. The sooner we're married, the sooner your farm is secure," Owen reminded her. "I know." Harper stood up. "I should go tell my mother." Owen walked her to her truck. As Harper opened the door, she turned to him. "Can I ask you something?" Owen waited silently. "Have you ever been in love?" A shadow crossed Owen's face. "Love is a luxury I've never had time for." "That's sad," Harper said softly. "It's practical," Owen countered. "Emotions complicate things." Harper climbed into her truck. "Well, you don't have to worry about that with me. This is just business, right?" Right, Owen agreed, but something in his expression made Harper wonder if there was more to this complicated man than he let on. As she drove away, Harper couldn't help feeling that she was driving toward an uncertain future, one that might change her in ways she couldn't yet imagine. Saturday arrived with a clarity that seemed at odds with Harper's jumbled emotions. The Ibimiuri, black car Owen had sent, pulled up to the farmhouse exactly at 9. Her mother helped her into a simple white dress they'd found at a boutique in town. "You look beautiful," Ellie said, adjusting the small flower in Harper's hair. "Thanks, Mom," Harper replied, trying to smile. "It's going to be okay." Ellie cupped her daughter's face. "I know you're doing this for me, for the farm, but promise me something, Harper. Anything. Don't close your heart completely. Sometimes love finds us in the strangest circumstances." Harper hugged her mother tight. "This isn't about love, Mom. It's just a contract." The ceremony at the courthouse was brief and impersonal. Owen wore an expensive suit and a serious expression. When the judge pronounced them husband and wife, Owen hesitated only slightly before placing a chaste kiss on Harper's lips. It was official. Harper Wilson was now Harper Blackwell, wife of the wealthiest farmer in the county. She had saved her family's legacy, but as Owen led her to the waiting car, she couldn't help wondering what price she might ultimately pay for this bargain. She glanced at the gold band on her finger, then at the stoic profile of her new husband. For better or worse, their lives were now intertwined. The contract said 1 year. Harper wondered if her heart would remember that it was just business. Harper stood in the doorway of what was now her bedroom at the Blackwell estate. The room was larger than her entire upstairs at home, with a king-sized bed covered in cream-colored linens and tall windows overlooking the rolling fields. "Is everything satisfactory?" Owen asked from behind her. Harper turned, still clutching her small suitcase. "It's beautiful." "My room is down the hall," Owen said, pointing to a door at the end of the corridor. "Mrs. Winters, the housekeeper, will be here in the morning to help you get settled." "I don't need help," Harper said quickly. "I can manage on my own." Owen's expression remained neutral. "Mrs. Winters has worked for my family for 20 years. She knows the house and the routine." "What exactly is the routine?" Harper asked, setting her suitcase on a nearby chair. "What am I supposed to do all day?" "Whatever you wish," Owen replied. "The only requirement is that you join me for dinner parties and public events as needed." Harper nodded, feeling strangely adrift. At home, every minute of her day had a purpose. Working at the diner, helping her mother, fixing things around the farm. Here, she was just decoration. "I'd like to visit my mother tomorrow," she said, "to check on her." "Of course. Take one of the cars in the garage. The keys are in the kitchen." Harper was surprised by his easy agreement. "Thank you." Owen hesitated as if there was something more he wanted to say. Instead, he simply nodded. "Dinner is at 7. Mrs. Winters has already prepared something." After he left, Harper sat on the edge of the enormous bed, overwhelmed by the silence. The Blackwell house was beautiful but cold, like its owner. She unpacked her few belongings, feeling out of place among the elegant furnishings. At 7 precisely, Harper made her way to the dining room. Owen was already seated at one end of a table that could easily fit 12 people. "This seems a bit formal for just the two of us," Harper commented as she took a seat at the other end. Owen glanced up. "This is how I've always dined." Alone. At a massive table. Yes. Harper studied him as Mrs. Winters, a plump woman with kind eyes, served their dinner. "That sounds lonely." Owen seemed taken aback by her directness. "I'm used to it." The meal progressed in uncomfortable silence until Harper couldn't stand it anymore. "Tell me about your grandfather," she said. "He must have been important to you." Owen's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "What makes you say that?" "You're going through all this trouble to honor his will." Owen set his fork down. "My grandfather built this farm from nothing. Everything I have is because of him. And yet he set this strange condition about marriage. Thomas Blackwell was old-fashioned. He believed a man should have a family to work for, not just wealth to accumulate." Harper sensed there was more to the story. "Were you close?" "He raised me after my parents died," Owen said, his voice flat. "Car accident. I was 8. "I'm sorry," Harper said softly. "I lost my dad 5 years ago. It still hurts." Something flashed in Owen's eyes, recognition perhaps of shared grief, but the moment passed quickly. "What happened to your father?" he asked. "Heart attack. Right out in the North Field. By the time Mum found him." Harper swallowed hard. "After that, it was just the two of us trying to keep everything going." Owen nodded, and for the first time, Harper felt a hint of real connection between them. "My grandfather died in his sleep," Owen said quietly. "Peaceful, just as he deserved." The rest of dinner passed with less tension. When they finished, Owen excused himself to work in his office, and Harper returned to her room, feeling slightly more hopeful about the year ahead. The next morning, Harper woke to sunlight streaming through curtains she'd forgotten to close. For a moment she was disoriented, then remembered where she was and why. After dressing, she found Mrs. Winters in the kitchen preparing breakfast. "Good morning, Mrs. Blackwell," the housekeeper said with a warm smile. "Please, call." "Me, Harper?" she replied, uncomfortable with her new title. "Mr. Blackwell left early this morning," Mrs. Winters said, placing a plate of eggs and toast on the counter. "He said to tell you he'll be back for dinner." Harper wasn't surprised. Their marriage might be fake, but Owen's work ethic was very real. After breakfast, Harper drove one of Owen's cars, a practical SUV rather than one of the luxury vehicles in his garage, to check on her mother. She found Ellie in the garden, looking more relaxed than Harper had seen her in years. "Harper," Ellie called, embracing her daughter. "I was hoping you'd visit." "Of course I would," Harper said. "How are you doing?" "Better now that I'm not worrying every minute about losing the farm." Ellie led Harper inside. "The bank called yesterday. All our debts have been paid in full." Harper felt a rush of relief. Owen had kept his word. "And look," Ellie continued, pointing to a new refrigerator in the kitchen. "It was delivered this morning. The repairman is coming tomorrow for the roof and the heating system." Owen arranged all this. "Apparently being Mrs. Blackwell has its perks," Ellie said with a small smile. "Now tell me everything. How is it living in that big house? Is he treating you well?" Harper hesitated. "It's different. The house is beautiful but cold, and Owen keeps to himself." "Give it time," Ellie advised. "People like Owen don't open up easily." "It doesn't matter if he opens up or not," Harper reminded her. "This is just temporary." Ellie gave her daughter a knowing look. "Life has a way of changing our plans, Harper." Over the next few weeks, Harper settled into a routine at the Blackwell estate. Owen was rarely home during the day, managing his extensive agricultural operations. Harper found herself with time on her hands for the first time in years. At first, she spent most days visiting her mother or taking care of things at the Wilson farm. But increasingly, she found herself drawn to the Blackwell property itself. The gardens needed attention, and the massive house felt unlived in despite its perfection. One rainy afternoon, Harper was exploring a seldom-used sitting room when she discovered a photo album tucked in a bookshelf. Curious, she opened it to find pictures of a younger Owen with an older man she assumed was his grandfather. "What are you doing?" Harper jumped at Owen's voice behind her. "I'm sorry, I was just looking around." Owen's eyes fell to the album in her hands. His expression tightened. "That's private," he said, reaching for the album. "I didn't mean to pry," Harper said. "It's just, I hardly know anything about you." "That wasn't part of our agreement," Owen reminded her. "No, but we're living in the same house. Is it so strange that I'd be curious about the man I'm married to?" Owen seemed to consider this. "My grandfather took those photos. He was always documenting everything." Harper carefully handed him the album. "You look happy in those pictures." "I was young," Owen said dismissively. "Life was simpler then, before your parents died." Owen's gaze snapped to hers. "Yes." "Do you ever talk about them, about what happened?" "No." Owen's tone left no room for discussion. He tucked the album under his arm and turned to leave. "Owen," Harper called after him, "we're having dinner with the Millers tonight. You asked?" "Me to remind you." Owen paused. "Thank you, I'll be ready at 6. After he left, Harper sighed. Just when she thought she might be getting a glimpse of the real Owen, he shut down completely. That evening, Harper dressed carefully for dinner with the Millers, prominent members of the local farming community. This would be her first public appearance as Mrs. Blackwell, and she was nervous. She chose a simple blue dress that Mrs. Winters had helped her select during a shopping trip to town. When she descended the stairs, she found Owen waiting in the foyer, looking handsome in a dark suit. His eyes widened slightly as he saw her. "You look nice," he said, the compliment sounding unpracticed. "Thank you," Harper replied. "So do you." The drive to the Millers' home was quiet. Harper fidgeted with her wedding ring, still not used to its weight on her finger. "Are you nervous?" Owen asked unexpectedly. Harper glanced at him. "A little. I've never been to a dinner party like this before." "Just be yourself," Owen said. "The Millers are good people. Frank Miller was friends with my grandfather. What should I say if they ask how we met?" Owen considered this. "We'll say you were waitressing at the diner, and I was immediately taken with you. A whirlwind romance." Harper couldn't help but laugh. "That's partly true, but immediately taken with me might be stretching it." To her surprise, the corner of Owen's mouth turned up in what might have been a smile. "Perhaps, but it's better than the truth." The dinner went better than Harper expected. The Millers were warm and welcoming, and she found herself genuinely enjoying their company. Owen, too, seemed more relaxed, even laughing at Frank Miller's jokes. "So, Harper," Sarah Miller said over dessert, "Owen tells us you grew up on the A. Wilson farm. You must know everything about farming." "I wouldn't say everything," Harper replied modestly, "but I've been helping since I was old enough to walk." "She's being modest," Owen interjected, surprising Harper. "Harper knows more about local farming conditions than most people who've been doing it for decades." Harper stared at him, touched by the unexpected praise. "How did you two meet?" Sarah asked, her eyes twinkling with interest. Owen reached for Harper's hand on the table, his touch sending an unexpected jolt through her. "Harper was working at Maggie's diner. The moment I saw her, I knew she was special." The lie rolled off his tongue so smoothly that Harper almost believed it herself. She squeezed his hand, playing along. "It was very sudden," she added. "But when you know, you know." On the drive home, a comfortable silence settled between them, different from their usual awkward quiet. "You were good tonight," Owen said as they pulled into the Blackwell driveway. "The Millers loved you." "They're nice people," Harper replied, "and you were different with them, more relaxed." Owen nodded. "Frank was like a second father to me after my parents died. His farm borders our land to the east." Harper saw another opportunity to learn more about him. "Do you have any other family?" "No," Owen said, his voice turning flat again. "Just distant cousins I rarely see." As they entered the house, Harper decided to push a little further. "Owen, can I ask you something?" He paused, waiting. "What happened after your parents died? Who took care of you?" For a moment, Harper thought he wouldn't answer. Then he sighed. "My grandfather. He was already in his 60s, but he took me in without hesitation, taught me everything about farming, about life. He sounds like a wonderful man." "He was," Owen agreed. "Good night, Harper." As he turned to go, Harper called after him. "Thank you for everything you're doing for my mother. The repairs, the new appliances. It means a lot." Owen looked back at her, his expression softer than she'd ever seen it. "It was part of our agreement. Still, thank you." He nodded and disappeared down the hall, leaving Harper with the distinct feeling that there was much more to Owen Blackwell than she had initially thought. Weeks turned into months. Harper found herself becoming more involved in the Blackwell farm operations. It started innocently enough, a suggestion about crop rotation that Owen surprisingly took to heart, then advice about dealing with a difficult supplier. One morning, Harper was having coffee on the porch when Owen approached her with a stack of papers. "I'd like your opinion on something," he said, sitting beside her. Harper took the papers, surprised. They were plans for a new irrigation system. "The eastern fields have always had drainage issues," Owen explained. "I'm considering this new system, but it's expensive. I wanted a second opinion." Harper studied the plans carefully. "The technology looks solid, but have you considered a simpler approach? When we had similar issues on our farm, Dad installed French drains here and here." She pointed to specific areas on the map. It cost a fraction of what a full system would. Owen looked at her with new respect. "Show me." That afternoon they walked the eastern fields together. Harper pointed out where the drains should go, and Owen listened attentively. For the first time, Harper felt like a true partner rather than a contract wife. "You're good at this," Owen said as they headed back to the house. "Your father taught you well." "He believed women could farm just as well as men," Harper replied. "Mom and I were always involved in every decision." "That must have been nice," Owen said quietly, "having that kind of family." Something in his tone made Harper stop walking. "Didn't your grandfather include you in decisions?" "Not until I was older," Owen admitted. "After my parents died, he was protective, kept me away from anything challenging. Said he didn't want to lose me too." Harper could hear the pain beneath his matter-of-fact words. "That must have been hard, being sheltered when you were already dealing with such loss." Owen shrugged. "I understood his fear, but it meant I had to fight twice as hard to prove myself when I got older." "Is that why you work so much now? Still trying to prove yourself?" Owen gave her a sharp look. "I work because there's work to be done. Even though your grandfather is gone," Harper pressed gently. "Even though there's no one left to prove yourself to." Owen didn't answer, but his silence told Harper she'd struck a nerve. Later that evening, Harper found Owen in his office, surrounded by paperwork. She knocked softly on the open door. "I brought you some coffee," she said, setting a mug on his desk. "I noticed you missed dinner." Owen looked up, seeming surprised by the gesture. "Thank you, I lost track of time." "You work too hard," Harper said, before she could stop herself. "The farm won't fall apart if you take a night off." "Old habits," Owen replied with a hint of a smile. "My grandfather used to say the same thing." Harper nodded toward the papers on his desk. "Anything I can help with?" Owen hesitated, then pushed a folder toward her. "These are production reports from the last 3 months. I'm trying to identify why our yields are down in the north sector." Harper sat across from him and began reviewing the reports. They worked in companionable silence for over an hour, occasionally exchanging ideas. When Harper finally yawned, Owen looked up at the clock. "It's late, you should get some rest." "So should you," Harper replied, standing. "Good night, Owen." "Harper," he called as she reached the door. "Thank you for your help." She smiled. "That's what partners are for." As she walked back to her room, Harper realized that somewhere along the way this arrangement had started to feel less like a business deal and more like a real partnership. And that thought both excited and terrified her. The following weekend, Harper invited her mother to dinner at the Blackwell house. To her surprise, Owen not only agreed, but offered to cook. "You cook?" Harper asked incredulously. "I lived alone for years before you came along," Owen reminded her. "I know my way around a kitchen." Ellie arrived that evening looking better than she had in years. The pain management treatments Owen had arranged were clearly working, and she moved with ease Harper hadn't seen since before the accident. "This place is even more beautiful than I remembered," Ellie said as Harper showed her around. "You've been here before?" Harper asked, surprised. "A long time ago," Ellie replied. "When your father and I were first married, the Blackwells hosted a harvest festival every year. The whole community was invited." Harper tried to imagine the formal, quiet house filled with laughter and celebration. It seemed impossible. "My grandfather loved those festivals," Owen said, joining them in the living room. "Good evening, Mrs. Wilson. It's a pleasure to have you here." "Please call me Ellie," Harper's mother replied. "And thank you for everything you've done for us." Owen nodded, seeming uncomfortable with the gratitude. "Dinner is ready." To Harper's amazement, Owen had prepared a delicious meal, roast chicken, with vegetables from the Blackwell garden. The conversation flowed easily, with Ellie sharing stories of the community from years past. "The Blackwell and Wilson farms actually share quite a history," Ellie said over dessert. "Did you know that, Harper?" Harper shook her head. "What do you mean?" Ellie glanced at Owen, who suddenly seemed very interested in his apple pie. "Our families were close once. Your grandfather and Owen's were best friends back in the day." "Really?" Harper looked at Owen in surprise. "You never mentioned that." "It was a long time ago," Owen said dismissively. Ellie continued. "They had some kind of falling out. I never knew the details. Your father wouldn't talk about it." Harper sensed Owen's discomfort. "Well, that's all in the past," she said, changing the subject. "Mom, how are the new chickens doing?" After dinner, while Owen cleared the dishes, Ellie pulled Harper aside. "You seem happy," she observed. "Happier than I expected." Harper shrugged. "It's not so bad here. Owen is different than I thought." "I can see that," Ellie said with a knowing smile, "and I can see the way he looks at you when you're not watching." "Don't start," Harper warned. "This is still just an arrangement." "If you say so," Ellie replied. "But be careful, Harper. I'd hate to see you get your heart broken when the year is up." Harper hadn't allowed herself to think that far ahead. The reminder that their marriage had an expiration date felt like a splash of cold water. Later, after Ellie had gone home, Harper found Owen on the back porch, staring out at the fields bathed in moonlight. "Thank you for tonight," she said, joining him. "My mother enjoyed herself." Owen nodded. "She's a good woman. You're lucky to have her." "I know." Harper hesitated, then asked the question that had been bothering her. "Why didn't you ever tell me our grandfathers were friends?" Owen was quiet for so long that Harper thought he might not answer. Because their friendship ended badly, he finally said, "And that falling out is the reason your family's farm has struggled while ours thrived." Harper stared at him. "What are you talking about?" Owen turned to face her, his expression troubled. "There's something on this land, Harper. Something valuable. Something my grandfather discovered and kept secret from yours." "What is it?" "I think it's time I showed you," Owen said grimly. "Tomorrow morning. Be ready at dawn." Harper watched as he walked back into the house, wondering what secret could be so significant that it had divided their families for generations, and what it might mean for their future. Harper woke before dawn, her mind racing with possibilities about what Owen might show her. She dressed in jeans and a flannel shirt, then made her way downstairs where she found Owen waiting in the kitchen with 2 travel mugs of "Coffee, ready?" he asked, handing her one of the mugs. Harper nodded, following him outside to a waiting ATV. The sky was just beginning to lighten as they set off across the fields, heading toward the far northern boundary of the Blackwell property. "How far are we going?" Harper asked as they bounced along a dirt path. "About 3 miles, Owen replied, "to the edge of the property where it borders your family's land." They rode in silence until they reached a heavily wooded area. Owen stopped the ATV and climbed off. "We'll have to walk from here." Harper followed him through the trees until they came to a small clearing. In the center was what looked like an old wellhead surrounded by a metal fence. "What is this?" Harper asked. Owen unlocked the gate in the fence. "This is what my grandfather discovered 50 years ago, what your grandfather never knew about." He led her closer to the wellhead and turned a valve. Immediately, water began to flow into a small stone basin. "Water?" Harper asked, confused. "That's the big secret." "Not just any water," Owen replied. He took a vial from his pocket, filled it from the basin, and handed it to her. "This is natural spring water with unusually high mineral content. It's pure, clean, and has properties that make it especially valuable." Harper examined the vial. The water looked crystal clear. "Valuable how?" "When used for irrigation, it significantly increases crop yields. That's why our farm has always produced more than others in the area. My grandfather discovered it accidentally when drilling a new well." Harper frowned. "And he never told anyone, not even his best friend?" Owen's expression hardened. "He planned to share it with your grandfather at first. Then he discovered something." "What?" "The source of the spring is actually under your family's property," Owen said quietly. "But the water flows underground to this point on our land. If your grandfather had known, he could have claimed rights to it." Harper stared at him in disbelief. "So your grandfather deliberately kept this secret to maintain his advantage while watching his best friend's farm struggle?" "It wasn't that simple," Owen defended. "There was a drought that year. Your grandfather was considering selling the farm. My grandfather offered to buy it at a fair price, planning to reunite the properties and share the water. But then... "What?" "Your grandfather found out my grandfather was interested and assumed he was trying to take advantage of his hardship. He accused him of being greedy, of only caring about expanding his own holdings." Their friendship ended, and your grandfather refused to sell to him out of spite. Harper tried to process this information. So all these years, the Wilson farm has been struggling because we didn't have access to this water. Owen nodded grimly. My grandfather regretted losing the friendship, but he was too proud to explain and yours was too stubborn to listen. And you? Harper asked, her voice tight with emotion. What's your excuse for continuing this deception? I only learned about it after my grandfather died, Owen said. It was in a letter he left me, along with the condition about marriage. Harper turned away, struggling to contain her anger. So that's why you chose me for this arrangement? Guilt. Partly, Owen admitted. But there was more to it. Like what? The letter explained that he wanted me to marry before inheriting the full estate, because he didn't want me to end up alone like him. He specifically mentioned that he hoped I might consider a Wilson to heal the rift between our families. Harper laughed bitterly. So I'm just fulfilling your grandfather's dying wish? At first, maybe, Owen said, stepping closer. But it's become more than that. Something in his voice made Harper look up at him. His eyes held an intensity she hadn't seen before. What do you mean? She asked softly. Before Owen could answer, the sound of approaching ATVs broke the moment. He tensed, moving protectively in front of Harper. We need to go, he said urgently. No one else knows about this place. They hurried back to their ATV, but before they could reach it, two men on ATVs broke through the trees. Harper recognized one of them immediately. Victor Harmon, owner of the largest agricultural corporation in the state and Owen's main competitor. Well, well, Victor said, climbing off his ATV with a smug smile. If it isn't the newlyweds, out for an early morning ride? You're trespassing, Harmon, Owen said coldly. This is private property. Victor ignored him, walking toward the fenced wellhead. So this is your little secret. I've heard rumors for years about why Blackwell crops always outperformed everyone else's. Now I know. How did you find this place? Owen demanded. I have my sources, Victor replied vaguely, including people who've worked for you for years, people who feel undervalued. Harper noticed Owen's jaw tighten. What do you want? Same thing I've always wanted, Victor said. Your land, and now that I know about this, he gestured to the spring. My offer just went up. Way up. It's not for sale, Owen stated firmly. It never will be. Victor smiled coldly. Everything's for sale at the right price, and if not, he let the threat hang in the air. Think about it, Blackwell. I'll be in touch. After Victor and his companion left, Harper turned to Owen. Who was that? Victor Harmon. He's been trying to buy me out for years. His company has been acquiring small farms all over the county and turning them into industrial operations. What did he mean by if not? Owen's expression was grim. Victor doesn't take rejection well. He'll try to find a way to force my hand. They rode back to the house in tense silence. Harper's mind whirled with everything she'd learned. The secret. Spring. The history between their families and now this new threat. Back at the house, Owen immediately went to his office to make phone calls. Harper found herself wandering the property, trying to process her feelings. She was angry about the deception that had caused her family such hardship, but also oddly protective of the farm. Both farms. Later that afternoon, Harper drove to her mother's house, determined to share what she'd learned. She found Ellie in the kitchen baking bread. Harper, what a nice surprise, Ellie said, hugging her daughter. Then she noticed Harper's expression. What's wrong? Harper sat at the kitchen table and told her mother everything about the spring, the falling out between their grandfathers, and Victor Harmon's appearance. Ellie listened silently, then sighed deeply. I always knew there was more to the story. Did Dad know about any of this? Harper asked. He suspected something, Ellie admitted. Your father once told me he thought the Blackwells had found water during the big drought, but he had no proof, and by then the rift was too deep. Aren't you angry? Harper asked, surprised by her mother's calm reaction. What good would anger do now? Ellie asked reasonably. What's done is done. The question is what happens next. Harper shook her head. I don't know. Owen seems concerned about this Victor Harmon. He should be, Ellie said grimly. Victor's company has been buying up farmland all over. They use chemical farming methods that destroy the soil. Many farmers who sold to him regret it now. Owen would never sell, Harper said with certainty. Ellie gave her daughter a knowing look. You sound very sure about that, and very concerned about Owen. Harper flushed. He's my husband, Mom, even if it is just temporary. Is it, though? Ellie asked gently. The way you talk about him now is different. Harper couldn't meet her mother's eyes. Things have changed, I guess. He's not who I thought he was. Better or worse? Different, Harper said, then smiled ruefully. Maybe better. He's complicated. When Harper returned to the Blackwell farm that evening, she found Owen still in his office, looking troubled. Everything okay? She asked from the doorway. Owen glanced up. Victor's been busy. He's already approached some of our neighbors with offers to buy their land. If he surrounds us, he could potentially cut off road access or create other problems. What can we do? Owen seemed surprised by her use of we, but didn't comment on it. I'm not sure yet. I'm meeting with my lawyer tomorrow. Harper hesitated, then entered the office and sat across from him. I told my mother about the spring today. Owen tensed. What did she say? She wasn't as surprised as I expected, or as angry. She said, what's done is done. Owen studied her face. And you? Are you still angry? I understand why you didn't tell me at first, Harper admitted. But once we were married, even if it is just an arrangement, you could have trusted me. Trust doesn't come easily to me, Owen said quietly. I've noticed. Harper stood to leave, then paused. Earlier at the spring, you said this had become more than just fulfilling your grandfather's wishes. What did you mean? Owen looked uncomfortable. It's late. We should both get some rest. Harper nodded, disappointed but not surprised by his evasion. Good night, Owen. The next morning, Harper woke to find the house empty. Note from Owen on the kitchen counter explained he'd gone to meet his lawyer and would be back for dinner. With time on her hands, Harper decided to explore the property more thoroughly. She borrowed one of the ATVs and headed out, eventually finding herself near the old barn on the eastern edge of the property. The barn looked neglected compared to the rest of the immaculate farm. Curious, Harper went inside and found it filled, with old equipment and furniture covered in dust sheets. At the back of the barn, a small door led to what appeared to be an office. Inside, Harper discovered old photographs on the walls. Thomas Blackwell with people she didn't recognize except for one. A photo of two young men standing proudly in front of a new tractor, arms around each other's shoulders. With a start, Harper realized one of them was her grandfather. The other was Thomas Blackwell. They were smiling, clearly the best of friends. As she looked around the room, Harper noticed an old desk with drawers. Most were empty, but in the bottom drawer, she found a stack of letters tied with twine. They were addressed to Thomas Blackwell from her grandfather. Heart pounding, Harper untied the bundle and began to read. The letters spanned decades, starting with friendly correspondence about farming matters, but the later letters revealed the growing rift between them, filled with accusations and hurt feelings. The final letter, dated just before her grandfather's death, broke Harper's heart. In it, her grandfather apologized for years of misunderstanding and asked for reconciliation. He wrote that life was too short for such a long grudge and that he missed his old friend. Had Thomas Blackwell ever responded? Had they reconciled before it was too late? Harper was so absorbed in the letters that she didn't hear anyone approach until a shadow fell across the desk. I see you found my grandfather's office, Owen said quietly. Harper looked up, startled. I'm sorry. I didn't. I mean to snoop. It's okay. Owen moved further into the room, looking around with an expression of nostalgia. I haven't been in here in years. My grandfather used to bring me here when I was a boy. He'd tell me stories about the old days while he worked. Did you know about these? Harper held up the letters. The last one. My grandfather wanted to make peace. Owen nodded sadly. My grandfather received it just days before your grandfather passed away. He wrote a response, but it was too late. What did it say? The response. That he was sorry too. That the water wasn't worth losing his best friend over. He planned to share the spring with your family as a peace offering. Owen sighed. But your grandfather died before he could send it. Harper felt tears stinging her eyes. All those years wasted because of pride and misunderstanding. My grandfather regretted it until the day he died, Owen said. That's why his will had those conditions. He wanted to ensure the farms would be united, the way they should have been all along. Harper looked up at him in surprise. United? You never mentioned that part of the will. Owen hesitated, then sat down across from her. The full condition was that if I married within a year, preferably a Wilson, then after 1 year of marriage, both properties would legally become one. So my mother's farm would become part of the Blackwell estate, yes, Owen confirmed, but with shared ownership between us. Harper tried to absorb this new information. Why didn't you tell me this before? I didn't want you to think I was trying to take your family's land, Owen admitted. I know how much it means to you. So what happens after our year is up? When we divorce? Owen looked away. That's where it gets complicated. If we divorce, the unification of the properties would be void. Your mother would keep her farm and I would keep mine, but neither would have legal access to the spring water. And if we stay married, then both farms benefit. The spring could be properly developed to serve both properties. Owen met her eyes. But I never wanted to force you into staying in a marriage you didn't choose freely. Harper's heart raced at his implication. What are you saying, Owen? Before he could answer, the sound of an engine drew their attention. Through the barn window, Harper saw Victor Harmon's expensive car pulling up to the main house. What's he doing here? She asked, alarmed. Owen's expression darkened. I don't know. But we'd better find out. They hurried back to the house where they found Victor waiting on the front porch with a thin folder in his hand. Ah, there you are, Victor said with a cold smile. Both of you perfect. What do you want, Harmon? Owen demanded. Victor held up the folder. I thought you might be interested in some information I've uncovered. About your marriage. Harper felt a chill run down her spine. Owen stepped slightly in front of her, protective. I'm not interested in anything you have to say, Owen stated, firmly. Oh, I think you will be, Victor insisted. When I heard about your sudden marriage, I was curious. It seemed convenient, so I did some digging. He opened the folder and removed a document. A marriage contract with a 1-year term. How unusual. Harper's breath caught. How had he gotten that? Where did you get that? Owen demanded, echoing. Her thoughts. I have my sources, Victor replied smugly. The point is, I know your marriage is a sham. A business arrangement to fulfill your grandfather's will. What's your point? Owen asked coldly. My point is, what would the executor of your grandfather's estate say if they knew? The will specified a real marriage, not a contracted arrangement. Victor's smile widened. The property could be contested. Harper felt Owen tense beside her. What do you want? He asked. I want to buy your land, Blackwell, all of it, including that special spring. And now I have leverage to make sure you sell. Or what? Harper stepped forward, anger overriding her fear. You'll tell everyone our marriage was arranged? Do you really think anyone would care? Victor seemed taken aback by her outburst. The will said Owen needed to marry, Harper interrupted. It didn't specify why or how that marriage came about, and what happens in our marriage is our business. She took Owen's hand firmly in hers, a gesture that surprised both men. We may have started as a business arrangement, but things change. People change. Owen squeezed her hand, catching onto her strategy. You're wasting your time, Harmon. I'm not selling, and your so-called leverage is worthless. Victor's confident expression faltered. We'll see about that. I'll be back with a formal offer, and my lawyers. He stormed back to his car and drove, off, spewing gravel. When he was gone, Harper realized she was still holding Owen's hand. She let go awkwardly. Sorry, I just thought... No, you were brilliant, Owen said, looking at her with new appreciation. Quick thinking. He doesn't seem like the type to give up easily, Harper worried. He's not, Owen agreed, but neither am I. They went inside, both shaken by the confrontation. In the kitchen, Harper busied herself making coffee while Owen called his lawyer to report what had happened. When he finished the call, Owen joined Harper at the kitchen table. My lawyer thinks Victor is bluffing. The terms of the will are more concerned with the marriage itself than the reasons behind it. That's good, Harper said, relieved. but he still knows about the spring. Yes, that's the bigger concern, Owen agreed. If he can't buy the land, he might try other tactics to gain control of the water. They sat in thoughtful silence, the tension of the day weighing on them. Finally, Harper gathered her courage to ask the question that had been on her mind since their conversation in the barn. Owen, before Victor showed up, you were about to say something. About our marriage. Owen looked uncomfortable. It's not important right now. It is to me, Harper insisted. These past months, living here with you, working alongside you, it's changed things for me. I need to know if it's changed things for you too. Owen stood and walked to the window, his back to her. When I first proposed this arrangement, I saw it as a solution to a problem. Nothing more. Harper felt her heart sink. And now? Owen turned back to face her. Now. I can't imagine this house without you in it. I can't imagine my life without you in it. Harper's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying that somewhere along the way, this stopped being just an arrangement for me. Owen hesitated, clearly struggling with his emotions. I've developed feelings for you, Harper. Real feelings. Harper stood and moved closer to him. I've been feeling the same way, she admitted softly. But I was afraid to say anything. Our contract. To hell with the contract, Owen said with sudden intensity. Contracts can be rewritten. Before Harper could respond, the sound of a car speeding up the driveway interrupted them. Through the window, they saw Mrs. Winter's car skidding to a halt. The housekeeper ran toward the house, her face pale with distress. Owen rushed to open the door. Mrs. Winters, what's wrong? It's your mother-in-law, Mrs. Winters gasped. There's been an accident at the Wilson farm. The barn collapsed while she was inside. Harper felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Mum, she whispered. She's alive, Mrs. Winters quickly assured her. But they've taken her to the hospital. It's serious? Harper was already moving toward the door, panic rising in her chest. Owen grabbed his keys and caught her arm. I'll drive, he said firmly. You're in no condition. The drive to the hospital was a blur for Harper. Owen drove fast but carefully, one hand on the wheel, the other holding hers tightly. She'll be okay, he kept saying. Ellie's strong. At the hospital, they were directed to the emergency department where a doctor met them. Mrs. Wilson has sustained serious injuries, the doctor explained. Several broken ribs, a punctured lung, and a head injury. We're preparing her for surgery now. Can I see her? Harper asked desperately. Briefly, the doctor agreed. She's being prepped for the operating room. Harper followed the doctor to a curtained area where her mother lay surrounded by machines. Ellie looked small and fragile, her face pale and bruised. Mum, Harper whispered, taking her hand gently. Ellie's eyes fluttered open. Harper, she said weakly. The barn, it just came down so fast. Don't talk, Harper urged. Save your strength. They're going to take good care of you. The farm, Ellie murmured. Don't let it go. I won't, Harper promised, but all that matters now is you getting better. A nurse appeared. We need to take her now. Harper kissed her mother's forehead. I love you. I'll be right here waiting. As they wheeled Ellie away, Owen appeared beside Harper and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. She turned into his embrace, finally allowing her tears to fall. What happened? Owen asked softly. Did Mrs. Winters know? Harper shook her head. She just said the barn collapsed. It was old, but not that old. It shouldn't have just come down. Like that, Owen's expression darkened. Unless someone helped it along. Harper pulled back to look at him. What do you mean? Victor Harmon was at your mother's farm this morning, Owen said grimly. My attorney found out he's been approaching all the neighboring properties with offers to buy. You think he... Harper couldn't bring herself to finish the sentence. I think it's a strange coincidence that hours after he threatened us, your mother's barn suddenly collapses. Harper felt a cold rage build inside her. If he hurt my mother... We'll find out, Owen promised. But first, we need to make sure Ellie is okay. The next few hours were the longest of Harper's life. She and Owen sat in the waiting room, her hand clutched in his, neither speaking much. Finally, the surgeon appeared, still in surgical scrubs. Mrs. Wilson made it through the surgery. he announced. Her injuries were severe, but she's stable. Harper sagged with relief. Can I see her? She's in recovery now. Once she's moved to the ICU, you can visit briefly, but she'll be heavily sedated for at least 24 hours. After the doctor left, Owen pulled Harper close. She's going to be okay. But what about the farm? Harper worried. She'll need care, rehabilitation. I can't manage the farm alone, and we can't afford to hire help. You're not alone, Owen said firmly. I meant what I said earlier, Harper. This isn't just an arrangement anymore. Harper looked up at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you, Owen admitted, the words clearly unfamiliar on his tongue. And I want our marriage to be real, no contracts, no time limits. Harper felt her heart swell despite the stress of the day. I love you too, she whispered. I have for a while now. Owen leaned down and kissed her gently, a first real kiss that held both tenderness and promise. When they separated, Owen's expression turned serious again. We'll figure this out together. Your mother, the farm, Victor Harmon, all of it. Harper nodded, drawing strength from his conviction. Together, a nurse approached them. Mrs. Blackwell, your mother has been moved to the ICU. You can see her now. As Harper stood to follow the nurse, Owen squeezed her hand. I'm going to make a few calls. I'll be right here when you get back. Harper visited her mother briefly, relieved to see her resting peacefully, despite all the tubes and monitors. When she returned to the waiting room, she found Owen on the phone, his expression thunderous. What is it? She asked as he ended the call. That was the sheriff, Owen said. He went out to examine your mother's barn. He found evidence that the support beams had been deliberately damaged. Harper gasped. Sabotage? You were right about Victor. We can't prove it was him yet, Owen cautioned. But the sheriff is investigating. Harper felt a fresh wave of anger. He could have killed my mother. I know, Owen said grimly, and he's not going to stop there. If Victor can't buy our land, he'll try to destroy it. Or us. Harper squared her shoulders. Then we need to stop him first. Owen nodded, a determined gleam in his eyes. I have a plan, but it's risky, and I'll need your help. I'm in, Harper said without hesitation. Whatever it takes. As they left the hospital that night, neither realized they were being watched from a car across the parking lot. Victor Harmon smiled coldly as he observed the couple walking hand in hand to their vehicle. Enjoy each other while you can, he murmured. The Blackwell Empire is about to fall, and I'll be there to pick up the pieces. The next week was a blur of hospital visits and police interviews. Harper divided her time between sitting at her mother's bedside and working with Owen to protect both their farms. Ellie was recovering, but slowly. The doctors warned it would be months before she could return to normal activities, if ever. You need to rest, Owen told Harper one evening as they drove home from the hospital. You're exhausted. I can't rest, Harper replied, staring out the window at the darkening fields. Not with Mom in the hospital and Victor still out there. Owen reached across to take her hand. The sheriff is building a case. They found tire tracks at the barn that match Victor's vehicle, and one of his employees came forward saying Victor had asked about the structural weaknesses in old barns. But they haven't arrested him yet, Harper pointed out. They will, Owen assured her. And in the meantime, we need to focus on our plan. Their plan was risky but simple. Since Victor wanted the spring, they would let him think he could get it, but on their terms. Owen had arranged a meeting with Victor for the following day, ostensibly to discuss selling a small parcel of land. Are you sure this will work? Harper asked as they pulled into the Blackwell driveway. No, Owen admitted. But it's our best chance to trap him into revealing what he's done. Inside the house, Harper headed straight upstairs for a shower. The hot water helped ease some of her tension, but her mind continued to race with worries. When she emerged from the bathroom, she was surprised to find Owen waiting in their shared sitting area between their bedrooms. I brought you some tea, he said, gesturing to a steaming mug on the table. Harper smiled gratefully, curling up on the sofa beside him. Thank you. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Owen spoke. I've been thinking about what happens after all this. After Victor is dealt with. Harper looked at him curiously. What do you mean? I mean us. Our marriage. Owen turned to face her fully. Harper, I meant what I said at the hospital. I want this, us, to be real. Harper's heart skipped. Despite their declarations at the hospital, part of her had worried that the intensity of the moment had pushed Owen to say things he didn't fully mean. Are you sure? She asked softly. This started as a business arrangement. You never wanted a real wife. I didn't know what I wanted, Owen corrected her. Or maybe I did, but I was too stubborn to admit it. My grandfather was right. I've spent too long focusing on the farm and not enough on living. He took her hands in his. These past months with you have changed everything. I look forward to coming home now. I enjoy our conversations, your insights about the farm, the way you've brought life back into this house. Harper felt tears welling in her eyes. I've fallen in love with this place, and with you. Owen reached up to brush a tear from her cheek. Then stay, not because of a contract or an obligation or even to save your mother's farm. Stay because you want to. I want to, Harper whispered. More than anything. Owen leaned in and kissed her, a kiss that held all the emotion they'd been holding back for months. When they finally broke apart, Harper rested her forehead against his. What about the farms? She asked. We'll unite them just as our grandfathers should have done years ago, Owen said. The spring will serve both properties. We'll make it official no matter what happens with Victor. Harper nodded, feeling a sense of peace despite the challenges still ahead. Together. Together, Owen agreed. The next morning, they prepared for their meeting with Victor. Owen's lawyer and the sheriff would be nearby, ready to intervene once they had enough evidence. Remember, Owen said as they waited in his office, we need to get him to admit what he's done. The wire you're wearing will pick up everything. Harper nodded, adjusting her blouse to hide the small microphone the sheriff had provided. I'm ready. When Victor arrived, he seemed surprised to see Harper present. I thought this was a business meeting, he said with thinly veiled irritation. Harper is my wife, Owen replied coolly, and a partner in all my business decisions now. Victor's eyes narrowed, but he took a seat across from them. So you're finally ready to be reasonable about selling? I'm ready to discuss options, Owen said vaguely. Recent events have made me reconsider my position. Recent events, Victor repeated with a smirk. You mean the unfortunate accident at the Wilson farm? Yes, old barns can be so dangerous. It's a shame about your mother-in-law. Harper felt a surge of anger but kept her expression neutral. Yes, a shame, especially since the sheriff found evidence it wasn't an accident at all. Victor's smirk faltered slightly. I wouldn't know anything about that. Of course not, Owen said smoothly. Just like you wouldn't know anything about the spring on our property. The spring is precisely why I'm interested in your land, Victor admitted. Natural mineral water is extremely valuable. You've been selfish keeping it to yourself all these years. Like your grandfather was selfish, Harper asked, baiting him. Victor turned to her with a cold smile. My research into your family history has been quite educational. Thomas Blackwell hoarded that resource while watching his so-called best friend struggle. At least I'm offering to pay for what I want. And sabotaging what you can't buy, Owen suggested. Careful, Blackwell, Victor warned. Accusations without proof are dangerous. Harper leaned forward. Why did you do it? Why target my mother's barn when she was inside? I didn't target anyone, Victor replied, but his eyes gleamed with malice. But if I had, it would have been a message, a demonstration of what happens to people who don't cooperate with my plans. Like the messages you've been sending to our neighbors? Owen asked. The threatening letters, the damaged equipment? Victor shrugged. Business is business. Sometimes people need persuasion to make the right decision. And what about my mother? Harper pressed. Was injuring her just persuasion? For a moment, Victor's mask of civility slipped. I gave you a chance to sell peacefully. You refused. Sometimes examples have to be made. The old woman was unfortunate collateral damage. Owen stood abruptly. I think we've heard enough. Ondi, cue the office door open to reveal the sheriff and Owen's lawyer. Victor Harmon, the sheriff said. You're under arrest for sabotage, attempted murder, and criminal threats. We have your confession on tape. Victor's face contorted with rage. Has he realized he'd been tricked? You set me up. You set yourself up, Harper replied, standing beside Owen. We just gave you the opportunity to reveal who you really are. As the sheriff led a fuming Victor away, Owen put his arm around Harper's shoulders. It's over, he said softly, but it wasn't quite over yet. Victor's arrest made headlines, and soon other farmers came forward with similar stories of intimidation and sabotage. The investigation expanded, revealing a pattern of criminal behavior throughout Victor's business dealings. With Victor in jail, awaiting trial, Harper and Owen could finally focus on the future of both their farms and their marriage. 2 weeks later, Ellie was released from the hospital into Harper and Owen's care. They set up a comfortable bedroom for her on the ground floor of the Blackwell house. This is too much, Ellie protested weakly as Harper arranged pillows behind her back. It's not nearly enough, Owen said from the doorway. Your family now. Ellie, this is your home too. Tears welled in Ellie's eyes. I never thought I'd live to see the Wilson and Blackwell farms united again. Your grandfathers would be proud. I hope so, Owen said sincerely. Later that evening, Owen found Harper in his grandfather's old office in the barn. She was organizing the letters they'd found, preserving the history of their families. What are you doing out here so late? He asked, leaning against the doorframe. Harper looked up with a smile. Just thinking. Our 1-year anniversary is coming. Next month. The end of our contract, Owen noted, coming to sit beside her. And the beginning of something new, Harper added. I was reading through some of your grandfather's journals. Did you know he kept detailed records of the Spring Waters properties? Owen nodded. He was meticulous about documentation. Well, according to his notes, the mineral content makes the water exceptional, not just for crops, but potentially for health benefits too. Harper showed him a page from the journal. He tested it extensively. What are you suggesting? Owen asked, intrigued. I'm not sure yet, Harper admitted. But what if instead of just using the water for our farms, we could share its benefits more widely? A natural spring water business, perhaps? Owen considered this. That would mean letting people onto the property, developing the spring properly. It would, Harper agreed. But isn't that better than keeping it hidden? Look what happened when your grandfather tried to keep it secret. Decades of misunderstanding and lost friendship. Owen was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. You're right. My grandfather eventually realized that too, though it was too late for him and your grandfather. But not too late for us, Harper said softly. Owen took her hand. Not too late. At all. The following weeks were busy with planning and recovery. Ellie grew stronger day by day. Though the doctors warned she might always have some limitations, the sheriff's investigation into Victor Harmon uncovered extensive corruption, ensuring he would face serious charges. Meanwhile, Harper and Owen began the legal process of uniting their farms, just as Thomas Blackwell had wished. They also started exploring the possibility of developing the spring as a small, sustainable business that would benefit the whole community. One evening, as they walked the property together, Owen stopped near the old oak tree where Harper's father had hung a swing years ago. I've been thinking, he said, taking her hands in his. Our arrangement began with a proposal that had nothing to do with love. I'd like to change that. To Harper's surprise, Owen knelt before her and pulled a small box from his pocket. Harper Wilson Blackwell, he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. This past year has changed my life in ways I never expected. You've taught me that there's more to living than just working, more to success than just wealth. You've made this house a home. He opened the box to reveal a beautiful diamond ring. Our contract is about to expire. Instead of renewing it, I'm asking you to marry me again. This time for love, not obligation. No terms, no conditions, just us building a life together. Will you? Tears spilled down Harper's cheeks as she nodded. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. Owen slipped the ring onto her finger beside the simple gold band she already wore, then stood to pull her into his arms. As they kissed beneath the oak tree, Harper felt as though everything had come full circle. What had begun as a business arrangement had blossomed into something neither of them had expected. true love. 1 month later, on the anniversary of their first wedding, Harper and Owen renewed their vows in the garden of the Blackwell estate. This time there was no contract, no notary, just friends and family gathered to celebrate their love. Ellie watched proudly from her chair in the front row as Harper, radiant in a simple white dress, pledged her heart to Owen. The couple had decided to hold the ceremony near the newly developed spring, which now featured a beautiful stone pavilion and clear flowing channels. "I promise to be your partner in all things," Owen said, his voice clear and confident, "to share in your joys and sorrows, to work alongside you, and to cherish you all the days of my life. I promise to stand by you through whatever challenges we face," Harper replied, squeezing his hands, "to build our life and our legacy together, and to love you completely and unconditionally." After the ceremony, guests gathered for a celebration that spanned both properties. For the first time in decades, the Blackwell and Wilson farms operated as one, a united legacy that honored both families' histories. As evening fell, Harper and Owen slipped away from the festivities to visit the spring one last time before departing. For their honeymoon, "My grandfather used to say this water was magic," Owen said as they stood hand in hand, watching the clear water flow. "I never believed him until now." "What changed your mind?" Harper asked. Owen turned to face her, his eyes full of love. "It brought you to me." 6 months later, Harper stood on the porch of the Blackwell house, watching as Owen gave Ellie a tour of the newly installed irrigation system that now connected both properties. Her mother had recovered enough to walk short distances with a cane and was determined to stay involved in farm operations, even if she couldn't do the physical work anymore. The spring water business was in its early stages, but showing promise. They had started small, bottling the mineral water for local distribution, with plans to expand gradually. True to their vision, a portion of the profits was dedicated to supporting small farms in the community. As she watched her husband and mother laughing together, Harper placed a hand on her slightly rounded stomach. She hadn't told Owen yet about the baby. That news was for tonight, a special surprise to end a perfect day. The sound of a car coming up the driveway drew her attention. It was Sarah Miller, who had become a close friend over the past year. "Harper," Sarah called, waving as she got out of her car. "I brought those baby catalogs you asked for." Owen's head whipped around, his expression changing from confusion to wonder as he looked at Harper. She sighed, so much for her surprise, but couldn't help smiling at the joy spreading across his face. He crossed the yard in long strides and swept her into his arms. "Is it true?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. Harper nodded, laughing through happy tears. "I was going to tell you tonight. We're having a baby." Owen kissed her, oblivious to Sarah's delighted applause and Ellie's tearful smile. When they finally broke apart, he rested a hand gently on Harper's stomach. "A baby," he whispered in awe. "Our child will grow up here, on this land that our grandfathers loved. They'll know the whole story, the feud, the secret, and the love that finally healed everything." Harper covered his hand with hers. "And they'll know that some deals turn out to be much more than what they seem." "The best deal I ever made," Owen agreed, pulling her close again. As the sun set over their united farms, turning the fields golden, Harper thought about the strange journey that had brought them to this moment. What had begun as a desperate business arrangement had transformed into a love deeper and more real than anything she could have imagined. The millionaire farmer had offered a waitress a deal to save her family's farm. But in the end, they had saved each other and found the one thing neither had been looking for: true love. Across the valley, the newly established Spring Pavilion welcomed visitors who came to sample the famous mineral water. A dedication plaque told the story of Thomas Blackwell and John Wilson, once the best of friends, whose farms were finally reunited through the love of their grandchildren. And beneath the plaque, inscribed in smaller letters, were the words that Harper and Owen had chosen together: "From separation to unity, from contract to love, some arrangements are meant to last forever. The end."